I had never intended for things to spiral this far. What started as a harmless prank, just a little experiment with my sister's makeup kit, was quickly becoming the defining moment of my life at school. My name is Ethan, and I've always been the kind of guy who blends into the background. Average grades, quiet demeanor, and a tight circle of friends who knew me as the funny, slightly awkward guy. I never imagined I'd wake up one morning looking like someone completely different, and not just a different version of myself, but the prettiest girl in class. It all began on a lazy Saturday afternoon. I was at home, lounging on the couch, scrolling through my phone, when my little sister's makeup kit caught my eye. She had left it on her dresser, her brushes, lipsticks, and palettes neatly arranged like a tiny art gallery. I smirked. What if I tried a little prank on my friends? I muttered to myself. The idea seemed innocent enough. Just a little lipstick here, some blush there, nothing serious. Surely, no one would recognize me after a few quick touches. I had no experience with makeup, beyond watching a few online tutorials and sneaking peeks at how my sister transformed herself. But curiosity and a hint of mischief got the better of me. I grabbed a brush and tentatively dabbed a soft pink blush onto my cheeks. Then, almost instinctively, I traced the outline of my lips with a bold red lipstick. My hands shook slightly. The unfamiliar sensation of applying makeup to my own face felt both thrilling and nerve-wracking. When I finally looked into the mirror, I froze. The reflection staring back wasn't the Ethan I knew. My features had softened, my eyes seemed larger, and the lipstick and blush gave me a delicate, radiant glow. For a moment, I barely recognized myself. And that's when the real temptation hit me. I could take this prank to school. School was always a predictable place for me. I knew the hallways, the classrooms, the cafeteria routines like clockwork. But now, armed with this new look, I had the opportunity to turn everything upside down. My mind raced with possibilities. Would my friends laugh? Be shocked? Or admire me? The last thought made my stomach twist in ways I hadn't anticipated. I slipped into my sister's old dress, a soft, pastel blue that hugged my frame in unexpected ways. The fabric was cool against my skin, and as I adjusted the hem nervously, I felt an unfamiliar flutter of confidence. I practiced walking around my room, heels clicking softly against the floor, adjusting the fit, perfecting the sway of my hips. Each movement made me more aware of how different and undeniably feminine I looked. The suspense began building almost immediately. My parents were out for the afternoon, and the house was empty. That meant I had a narrow window to experiment fully without interruption. I twirled in front of the mirror, marveling at the transformation. My eyes, now accentuated with eyeliner, sparkled in a way that felt hypnotic. I felt like I was seeing a version of myself I had never known existed, someone confident, radiant, and utterly captivating. And then came the thought that made my pulse spike. What if I didn't just stop at the prank? What if I fully embraced this transformation for the day at school? The idea terrified me and excited me all at once. I could walk into the cafeteria, the hallways, the classrooms, and see the reactions of everyone who had never looked at me twice. For the first time, I could be the center of attention, not as the awkward, invisible Ethan, but as someone completely new, someone stunning. My friends' reactions were the ultimate unknown. Would they recognize me immediately? Or would the shock leave them speechless, giving me the power of a secret identity? And what about my crush, Lily? I had admired her from afar for months, but she barely noticed me in my usual quiet, shy form. Would this new persona finally capture her attention, or make her think I was just playing a joke too far? I caught myself in the mirror again, adjusting a stray lock of hair, smoothing the dress, and straightening my posture. I was meticulous, almost obsessive, ensuring every detail was perfect. Each touch of makeup, each small adjustment, reinforced the thrill. The prank had become more than a joke. It was a doorway into a version of myself I had never dared to explore, and yet, beneath the excitement, a nervous tension lingered. I could be discovered at any moment. One phone call from my parents, one accidental knock on the door, or even a friend arriving unexpectedly could shatter the illusion. I felt the duality of my situation keenly. Part of me was exhilarated by this newfound attention. Part of me feared the consequences of being seen like this. The final step was the most daring, stepping outside my room and walking down the hall to face the real world. Each step I took in the soft heels heightened the anticipation. My heartbeat echoed in my ears as I imagined the reactions I'd get once I entered the school. Would anyone recognize me immediately? Would whispers follow me from classroom to classroom? And most importantly, could I maintain this persona under the scrutiny of dozens of curious eyes? As I prepared to leave, I caught a final glimpse of myself in the hallway mirror. The reflection was breathtaking, someone confident, radiant, and undeniably feminine. A shiver ran down my spine. This was no longer just a prank. It was a transformation, both physical and emotional. And once I crossed the threshold into the school hallways, there would be no turning back. For a brief moment, I hesitated, wondering if I was ready for the chaos I was about to unleash. Then, with a deep breath, I stepped forward, heels clicking on the floor, heart pounding, ready to confront the reactions, judgments, and possibilities waiting for me outside my bedroom door. The morning sunlight filtered through my bedroom window, casting a warm glow across my carefully arranged outfit. I took a deep breath, gripping my backpack nervously. Today was the day I would step into uncharted territory. The school hallways, the classrooms, the cafeteria, all eyes on me. The prank I had started the night before had snowballed into something far more thrilling and terrifying than I could have imagined. The first challenge was leaving my house without being seen by my parents. I inched past the living room, heels clicking softly against the hardwood floor, clutching my bag close to my chest. Every sound, the creak of the door, the hum of the refrigerator, even the distant bark of our neighbor's dog, felt magnified, each one threatening to expose me. But I made it outside, the morning air cool against my skin, carrying the scent of freshly cut grass and distant exhaust fumes from the street. The walk to school felt surreal. Every glance from passers-by sent a shiver of adrenaline through me. I had practiced walking, smiling, tilting my head just enough to look casual yet alluring, but now each step required precision and courage. I could feel my heart hammering against my ribs as I imagined how my classmates would react. Would they recognize me? Or would the transformation be so complete that they would see someone entirely new? As I entered the school gates, the first whisper hit me like a wave. "Is that Ethan?" I froze for a fraction of a second before continuing my stride. Heads turned, eyes widening in disbelief. Whispers followed me down the hall, bouncing off lockers and echoing through the classrooms. I caught glimpses of familiar faces, friends, classmates, even teachers, pausing mid-step to stare. A strange mix of fear and exhilaration coursed through me. This was more than a prank. It was a revelation. The cafeteria was the next battleground. I could feel dozens of eyes tracking me as I walked to my usual table. My friends were already seated, their jaws slack and eyes wide. Ethan?" stammered my best friend, Jake, his voice a mixture of awe and confusion. I smiled, softly, batting my lashes almost instinctively. The effect was immediate. His expression shifted from confusion to something like admiration, or perhaps astonishment. Internal conflict surged. I had expected shock, maybe laughter, but the reactions were far more intense. Some students whispered behind cupped hands, others stared openly, some with curiosity, some with unmistakable envy. Every glance, every comment, intensified the thrill and the anxiety. Could I maintain composure under this level of scrutiny? Would I survive this social trial without breaking character? The day's first class brought another set of challenges. Sitting at my desk, I tried to focus on the teacher's lecture, but every subtle movement, the shift of a chair, a notebook flipping, a hushed whisper, felt magnified. I could hear students speculating, murmuring, and giggling behind their hands. My stomach twisted with nervous excitement. I was both terrified of being discovered and thrilled by the attention I commanded. Lunchtime was the true test. The cafeteria buzzed with energy, everyone keen to witness the Ethan transformation. I navigated through clusters of students, each step in my heels deliberate, careful. Conversations halted as I passed, replaced by murmurs and pointed glances. One of the popular girls, Chloe, smirked knowingly.
Wow.
"Ethan, is that really you?" she whispered, leaning toward her friend. Her words sent a jolt through me. The reality of my situation hit me fully. My secret was no longer just mine. Everyone was watching, judging, analyzing. My makeup, my dress, my every move had become public performance. And yet, with each gaze, each comment, I felt a thrill of power and exhilaration that I had never experienced before. The challenge escalated when I ran into Lily, my crush.
My heart stuttered in my chest.
She stopped mid-step, her eyes scanning my face and then lingering on the dress. For a moment, she said nothing, her expression a mixture of disbelief and fascination. "Ethan, you look amazing," she finally whispered. The word, amazing, was enough to send a surge of adrenaline through me. Could this be the moment my quiet existence transformed into something unforgettable? But the suspense didn't end there. Whispers turned into questions, questions into stares, and stares into invitations for conversation. I found myself balancing the thrill of attention with the fear of exposure. Each compliment, each curious glance, was a double-edged sword. The more I embraced the persona, the more I risked losing control. By mid-afternoon, the novelty began to wear off, replaced by an acute awareness of how fragile this new identity was. A classmate accidentally brushed against my arm, and I felt a pang of fear. What if someone realized? What if my makeup smudged, my dress snagged, or my carefully practiced walk faltered? Each minor risk sent my heart racing. I was walking a tightrope, suspended between exhilaration and dread. Returning to the classroom, I caught glimpses of symbolic props around me, the reflection of myself in the window, my high heels clacking softly on the floor, the delicate lines of makeup highlighting features I had never noticed before. Each detail reinforced the duality of my situation. I was Ethan, the quiet, background student, and I was also this stunning, captivating persona that commanded attention effortlessly. The day ended with a quiet moment in the empty hallway. I leaned against the lockers, adjusting my dress, smoothing my hair, and taking a deep breath. The adrenaline lingered, my body buzzing with a mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration. I realized something profound. This prank had become more than a joke. It was a discovery of self, a thrill of transformation, and a test of courage. And yet, as I walked home, heels clicking softly on the pavement, a nagging fear remained. What if tomorrow, someone else recognized me? What if my parents found out? What if Lily, or anyone else, saw beyond the persona and rejected the real me? The questions swirled in my mind, creating a cocktail of excitement and dread that made my pulse race. By the time I returned home, I was both exhilarated and terrified. My experiment had succeeded beyond my wildest expectations. I had become the center of attention, the prettiest girl in class, and yet the stakes had risen. The next day promised new challenges, new tests of composure, and new encounters that could expose or elevate my carefully crafted persona. For the first time, I understood the intoxicating balance of thrill and fear, power and vulnerability. The prank had begun as a joke, but it had become a journey, a revelation, and a suspenseful dance with identity that I was only just beginning to explore. By the time lunch ended, I realized that being the center of attention was far more intense than I had anticipated. Whispers, sideways glances, and the occasional stunned silence had followed me like shadows all day. The thrill of my prank had grown into a full-blown performance, and now I was trapped in it, both exhilarated and terrified. The first real obstacle appeared when Chloe, one of the most popular girls in school, approached me during the break. "Ethan, right?" she asked, her voice sweet but teasing. "You're different today." Wow. Her eyes glimmered with curiosity and a hint of envy. I forced a casual laugh, adjusting my bag on my shoulder, trying to appear effortless. Every movement had to be perfect, heels clicking just so, dress swaying naturally. My hands trembled slightly under the pressure, though I tried to hide it behind the clutch I had borrowed from my sister. "Yeah, just trying something new," I said, my voice higher than usual, soft and melodic, yet steady. Her smile widened. "Well, you're definitely making an impression. Everyone's talking about you." My heart skipped a beat. Talking about me? Everyone? I suddenly realized that my prank had spiraled far beyond a few laughs among friends. This was no longer a private joke. It was public, uncontrollable, and utterly consuming. Every passing glance, every whisper, amplified my internal conflict. Part of me wanted to run and change back into my normal clothes. Another part craved the thrill of being noticed, admired, envied even. The day only grew more suspenseful as I walked into my next class. The hallways were busier, filled with students moving between periods, some stopping to stare, some pointing discreetly, others murmuring comments. Each step felt like navigating a minefield. The pressure of maintaining my persona, of keeping the prank believable, weighed on me. I could feel sweat forming at my temples, the excitement and anxiety intertwining in a dizzying mix. Then, the unexpected twist. A teacher, Mrs. Lang, who rarely noticed me in my usual quiet form, stopped mid-step and studied me. "Ethan," she said, her brow furrowed in mild confusion. "You look different today." I forced a small, confident smile. "Just trying something new, ma'am," I said, keeping my voice soft and melodic, careful to maintain the illusion. Her eyes lingered for a moment longer, curiosity and amusement flickering in her gaze, before she nodded and moved on. The brief encounter left my heart racing. Being noticed by teachers, people who had never acknowledged me before, added a new layer of tension and thrill. Lunchtime brought the ultimate test of composure, sitting at my usual table with my closest friends. Jake and Sam stared at me, jaws slack, eyes wide. "Ethan, you're gorgeous," Jake finally managed, his voice a mix of disbelief and admiration. Sam simply shook his head, muttering, "I don't even recognize you." Each compliment sent a thrill through me, but also intensified the fear. What if one of them figured out it was a prank? What if my makeup smudged or my carefully crafted look faltered under scrutiny? I sipped my drink, trying to appear casual, but every heartbeat felt amplified, each glance a potential threat to the illusion. The tension escalated further when I spotted Lily across the cafeteria. My crush. My heart nearly stopped. She was staring at me, eyes wide, lips slightly parted in surprise. I took a slow, deliberate step toward her, heels clicking softly, chest tight with anticipation. Our eyes met, and for a brief moment, the world seemed to shrink to just the two of us. "Ethan, wow," she finally whispered, her voice barely audible. "You looked amazing." The words sent a rush of adrenaline through me. Could this be the moment where my quiet existence transformed into something unforgettable? But even as I approached, another twist hit. Chloe and her friends, watching our interaction with barely concealed envy, began whispering and giggling. Every eye in the cafeteria seemed to follow my every move. The pressure was suffocating, yet intoxicating. By mid-afternoon, the stakes rose even higher. A group project required me to pair with students who had never interacted with me closely before. Each interaction was a minefield of potential exposure. I had to navigate conversations, gestures, and subtle movements perfectly, ensuring my tone, posture, and expressions remained consistent with the persona I had crafted. Every slip, every misstep, could reveal the prank, shattering the fragile web of admiration I had spun. The final, symbolic moment of transformation occurred during a short break in the hallway. I caught my reflection in the window, the sunlight highlighting the subtle shimmer of my makeup, the elegant contours of my face, and the delicate curve of the dress. I paused, taking in the image. This was no longer just a prank. It was a revelation of a hidden side of myself, one that was captivating, confident, and undeniably feminine. The reflection mirrored both Ethan and this new persona simultaneously, emphasizing the duality of my identity and the high stakes of maintaining it. Then, the unexpected climax. The school principal, Mr. Davis, appeared, walking briskly down the hallway. He had never paid much attention to me before, and now, seeing me transformed, he stopped in his tracks. "Ethan, is that you?" he asked, his voice a mixture of curiosity and disbelief. My stomach twisted. Could he be supportive, or would this be the end of the prank, and possibly my social standing? I forced a polite smile. "Yes, sir, just experimenting," I replied, trying to keep my composure. He studied me for a long moment, then nodded slowly, almost approvingly, before walking away. Relief washed over me, but only partially. The close call had reminded me that one misstep could unravel everything. The final test of the day came when I returned home. My parents were back earlier than expected. Every creak of the door, every step in the hallway heightened the suspense. I froze as they entered the living room, both looking at me with a mixture of curiosity and amusement. "Ethan, what's going on?" my mom asked, her eyebrows raised. I swallowed hard, gripping the dress and clutched tightly. Words failed me. Part of me wanted to flee, retreat into the safety of my original identity. Another part, the part that had felt alive, radiant, and powerful all day, urged me to embrace this moment fully. I stood there, taking a deep breath, ready to face the consequences, or the admiration that would follow. The suspense reached its peak when my little sister appeared, her eyes widening in shock and delight. "Ethan, you look incredible," she whispered. The mix of fear, exhilaration, and anticipation made my pulse thunder. I realized, fully, that the prank had transformed into a journey of self-discovery, performance, and high-stakes suspense that was far from over. The sun had begun to dip below the horizon, casting long shadows across my bedroom as I sat on the edge of my bed, clutching the small mirror my sister had lent me. The adrenaline of the day still coursed through my veins. Every compliment, every whispered comment, every stare had felt like walking a tightrope over a chasm of exposure. And now, in the quiet of my room, the reality of what I had done finally settled in. I had gone further than I ever imagined. My prank had escalated into a full-blown transformation, and now everyone at school knew, or at least suspected, that something extraordinary had occurred. My makeup was still flawless, my dress neat, and my heels clicking softly on the floor as I shifted nervously. The image reflected back at me wasn't just Ethan. It was someone new, someone confident, radiant, and undeniably feminine. A sudden knock on the door made me jump. My heart raced. Was it my sister coming to tease me? My parents returning unexpectedly? Or someone else, someone who could unravel everything I had built today? I held my breath, listening. "Ethan, are you in there?" It was Lily's voice, soft but insistent. I froze. Lily, my crush. She had somehow found her way to my room, or maybe she had been watching all day. My mind raced with possibilities. What would she think when she saw me like this, fully transformed and undeniably different? Would she laugh? Be shocked? Or something else? I debated for a moment, my fingers trembling as I adjusted my hair and smoothed the hem of my dress. The thrill of exposure battled with the fear of rejection. Part of me wanted to hide, retreat into the safety of my old identity. Another part, the part that had felt alive all day, urged me to face the moment head-on. Hi, Lily." I finally managed, my voice soft but steady, trying to sound casual even as my chest pounded. She stepped into the room cautiously, her eyes wide as they took in my transformation. You're wow," she whispered, her voice a mixture of awe, curiosity, and something I couldn't quite place. I felt a shiver run down my spine. Her gaze lingered, and for the first time, I felt truly seen, not just as Ethan, the quiet, background student, but as this new, radiant persona I had created. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed on the desk. A notification glowed on the screen. "Jake, are you serious?" Everyone's freaking out. Panic and excitement collided in my chest. The prank had gone beyond private circles. It had become a spectacle. Every glance, every whisper, every comment had elevated the stakes. And now, With Lily standing in my room, everything felt infinitely more intense. I tried to steady myself, adjusting my posture and taking a deep breath. The reflection in the mirror caught my eye, the striking image of someone both familiar and utterly new. The duality of my identity, Ethan and this transformed version, stared back at me, daring me to choose. Then, the door creaked again. My little sister poked her head in, eyes wide with excitement and mischief. Ethan, or should I say, wow, you're actually pulling this off. I laughed nervously, the tension tightening in my chest. The room felt smaller, the stakes higher, every moment stretching into an eternity. I realized fully that this prank, this transformation, was no longer something I could simply undo. The thrill, the attention, and the possibility of being discovered had created a new reality, one that demanded courage and quick thinking. And just as I began to speak, the unmistakable sound of my parents' keys jingling at the front door echoed through the house. My pulse skyrocketed. Lily froze, her expression mirroring my own panic. My little sister's eyes widened, sensing the impending chaos. I glanced at the mirror again, seeing both Ethan and the transformed persona staring back. The room felt charged with suspense, every second stretching into unbearable anticipation. Should I hide, explain, run, or embrace the moment fully, regardless of the consequences? The door handle rattled. My parents were entering. Lily's hand brushed mine, a small, reassuring touch, and my heart skipped. The world outside my room had shifted, and I was trapped in a moment suspended between fear, excitement, and the intoxicating thrill of transformation. And then, just as my parents' footsteps drew closer, my little sister whispered, barely audibly, "Don't panic, just wait and see." I held my breath, eyes locked on the doorknob, heart pounding in my chest. The suspense, the uncertainty, and the thrill of discovery all collided in that single, electrifying moment. The story ends here, not with resolution but with suspense. Will my parents discover the prank? How will Lily react now that she's seen the full transformation? Can I maintain this persona, or will my dual identity be exposed? What will happen tomorrow at school, with everyone watching and judging? The answers are unknown. The prank has evolved into a journey of self-discovery, social suspense, and emotional tension that is far from over.